Welcome to All Cards on Deck. For those who don't know me, I'm Ola and I'm the host of these little series where I sit down with different guests who have absolutely different backgrounds, but they all have something in common. They all live their lives on purpose, doing something they love, feeling fulfilled, and being on that path, either towards purpose or already living their lives purposefully. And I created these series to inspire you guys, inspire you by the stories of real people, their challenges, their ups and downs, because it's not only rainbows and butterflies. There are some bumps on the road, and I really want you to listen to all of these stories and be like, hey, I won't do the same mistake. I'll be more careful here and here. So these also series have a little twist. I mean, they're called All Cards on Deck for a reason because we're actually using cards. They're called We're Not Really Strangers. And these cards have random questions on them. This is how we're bringing a bit of fun, excitement into such a serious topic, as many would think, as purpose. And this is how we're going deeper into the person's story, also beyond purpose. And today we have an incredible guest, my dear friend Natalia. She is a business embodiment mentor, and her story is incredible. She was a LinkedIn unicorn, and I feel like it was destiny for us to meet. We met in Bali through a friend when I was in the beginning of my journey as a coach, as a mentor, and I had no idea where to start. I didn't want to go and promote myself on Instagram or Facebook because I don't have these platforms. Not a big fan of them till now, not using them. And I was like, okay, maybe LinkedIn could be an option. And this was just a thought out there. And then I meet Natalia, and she's this LinkedIn unicorn, a pro with this platform. And I was like, what are the odds? Seriously, what are the odds? I feel like maybe if I wouldn't meet Natalia, I wouldn't be on LinkedIn. So there's a huge, huge thank you and gratitude to you, Natalia, for being that guide on my at the beginning of my journey. So welcome, Natalia. I'm so happy to have you here. Finally, this conversation is definitely well overdue.
Thank you so much, Ola. When you were actually having or beginning with the introduction, I thought, wow, so many years ago I guided you a tiny little bit when it comes to the question LinkedIn. Now you're doing a LinkedIn Live. How amazing is that? That bridge just actually happened in my brain. I was like, oh, I'm so excited and proud for you.
Yeah, and I'm really, guys, like you cannot imagine how much gratitude I have for this person. Like my heart is just expanding, really, because as you said, the journey from where I was, being scared to post, not knowing what to post, to having right now a live on LinkedIn and doing it in a pretty chilled state in comparison also to my first live. But just
Normal.
proves
So
the more you
normal.
do it,
Yeah.
the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So yeah, once again, thank you so much. Let's dive into the questions then.
Mhm.
So the first question is, who are you?
As you already said, I'm a business embodiment mentor and a self leadership coach. What does that mean? These are the best terms that I could find to translate how I work and how I share my gifts and my talents and my blessings with the world. The easiest way to put it is that I guide people, especially driven, ambitious solopreneurs, back home to themselves. The majority of people understand that and say, wow, so important. And some people say, this is too abstract, too philosophical. Yes, I have a PhD in philosophy, so in case that is too abstract, let me use other words. A lot of successful people, they are successful, their business works, but it's costing them. It's costing them in energy, in clarity, and in how much they continuously have to override themselves, ignore their compass to achieve these results. And for me, that's not sustainable. The majority of us, we are overthinking, we're overdoing, and we are continuously running on adrenaline. So what I do is I take these people by the hand. We consciously slow down temporarily for a little bit to understand what your natural work rhythm is, how you make decisions from a place of alignment, what your biggest gifts are, how your energy functions. So in the end, there is more energy, more flow, more momentum, and more you in how you post, how you work, and how you navigate for everyday life. Does that make sense?
Beautiful. I also know that you are using human design in all of this, right? Helping your clients. How is that um, adding up to what you're giving, the gifts you're giving to your clients?
So human design for me is not a dogma or a religion or the ultimate thing out there. It's one of the many tools that I use. I also work intensively with IFS, internal family systems. I work with coaching, with consulting. My work is a lot in the crossroads of life, business, embodiment, and the spiritual world. It really is. I gave my best to separate it, but it really depends on the client and his or her needs. So depending on that, I use different tools and different approaches. Back to your question. Human design for me is a self-awareness tool that reminds us how we make aligned decisions and how we increase the chances of succeeding in life. Because this method has, or reminds us, shows us that there are different energy types, and every energy type just has a different way of moving through reality. There are people like manifesting generators. They love to follow trends and they love to work on multiple projects. And then there are people like generators. They like to focus on one thing and master that. And then there are people like projectors who don't need to work that much, but because they're so precise and so deep, bam, they get a lot of stuff done. And these people tend to feel a little bit guilty if they get things done in 3 hours that other people need 8 hours for. So with human design, I remind my clients how their energy flows naturally, how they make decisions from their inner compass instead of from conditioning or should and wants. And then, of course, we also have a look at aspects like their gifts, their reincarnation purpose, their shadows, or their sticky patterns, as I call them. But again, only if that person is open towards it. If they say, nah, I'm good, then we go into another direction.
I feel like these tools like human design or astrology are also great for us to finally find the answer of who are you, right? The first question I'm asking is who are you? And a lot of people get so confused when this question is asked. And I feel like, yeah, these tools are great to understand yourself much
Mm-hmm.
better, right?
I think so too,
I
yeah.
also love your new series of videos with different characters. Layla, Lightbeam, Power Petra, Copy Paste Carla. Oh my God, these characters are incredible. And we were chatting with you on WhatsApp. I was mentioning that I can find myself and connect to everyone of the characters. Could you tell us what do they mean to you, these characters, and are they also a part of you maybe in the past or now?
Absolutely. So I realized, when was that? 4 years ago. It was actually in a women's retreat. I was in a women's retreat in Bali. And one of the questions in the beginning was, tell us something weird about yourself that nobody knows. And I thought, okay. And the first thing that came up was, I talk to myself. And I am multiple. I'm not single. But I'm not schizophrenic. I'm 100% sure I'm healthy. So while I was sweating, I was saying and sharing that. For some reason, it wanted to be expressed. And everybody looked at me, and every woman, including the facilitator, said, yeah, me too. And I thought,
It's
what?
not only me.
Exactly.
I'm
Which
not
is,
alone.
right, I'm not alone. Yay, I'm not sick. I'm not crazy. I'm normal. Hey. So for me, this was a huge revelation. And then I learned about the the tool of the inner dialogue or the inner board meeting. And then fast forward a few years, I stumbled over a method which is called internal family systems by Dr. Swartz, which is a tool that is scientifically proven, it's evidence-based, that this can be used to guide people through inner wounds, through trauma. It's not just some too spiritual woo-woo tool. It works. That stuff is solid. So it works with the spirit, the mind, and the soul. And I, through that book, got reminded that we in the Western world think that I and the mind is one. And everything that is somehow different is weird and we're insecure. But that's just not true. Every person I know has at least once in their lives heard about the metaphor of the angel and the devil sitting on the different shoulders. These are just different parts of you. So we have all of these different parts of us, and we're allowed to listen to them, to understand their roles, because they're different roles. And none of these parts are bad. They are all here to help us. They all want us to succeed. And if some of these parts act in a weird way, well, very likely they want to protect us. And they protect us in ways that they know. A lot of them are actually like children, or they're like teenagers. They don't have the emotional maturity to help. So, back to your question. Once I was grounded in that knowledge and I understood, okay, I realized, or asked myself the question, what kind of parts used to be very dominant in me and sometimes come around the corner, and a part of me rolls their eyes, but another part says, how entertaining, there she is again. And these three parts are definitely Power Petra, the super hyper independent boss babe that doesn't need anybody, that is continuously working, powering through, but she doesn't know how to take a break. So that's definitely the old Natalia and a part of me. We have copy and paste Carla, who is so much stuck in what should I do, what's the right formula, how does the algorithm work, everything needs to be branded, everything needs to be professional. She doesn't even breathe properly. Whenever I go into her energy, I need to relax after that because everything just happens here. Poor thing. And lastly, we have Layla Lightbeam, that is the over-spiritual bypasser, who also speaks in this way because everything is so soft in her world without actually knowing that she's not actually doing the work, but everybody loves a little bit of Layla. So these are all parts, and they regularly visit me. And as you said, you see yourself in it, and so many other people see themselves in it. So I thought that talking about it and using humor could be an easy way for me to, number one, talk about taboo topics. Number two, bring more humor into a rather stiff environment like LinkedIn, because it's so professional,
Absolutely.
which I did since I was unicorn.
We need that. We need that on this platform.
Right. And the third and last one is that because the videos are so short, 1 minute, it allows me, or it invites me to be super precise with actually uncovering a pattern that people usually can't see or can't put into words. So I think that adds value for everybody who watches it, and for me who creates it, and for all of the parts who get a little bit of visibility.
Yeah, spotlight for all the parts.
Exactly.
What I also realized that these parts that sometimes we resent are actually coming up for us to accept them.
100%.
And when we accept that part, suddenly it becomes less noisy, or it completely dissolves. So interesting, right?
Yeah.
Okay, moving to our next question. What is your purpose?
So my purpose is to bring the unknown into the known. Or let me put it another way, to help people see through the veil of illusions. Or let me put it another way, to help people remind their inner truths. So my work, or my purpose, is very mystical. It actually is esoteric. in its purest form when you understand what esoteric means. A lot of people are like, well, this is esoteric. I'm like, okay, but what does it actually mean? So I looked at it, and esoteric means it is for a selected group of small people. And I get it, because this type of inner work, this type of emotional maturity and radical honesty, not a lot of people are ready for this, for whatever reason. So this is my purpose. And how did I find it? It wasn't that I was walking through the woods, looking under every stone, under every bridge or whatever. No! I worked with an astrologist. I worked with various human design experts. I read books. I went to workshops. And I listened to all of these interpretations. I wrote these things down. I meditated on it. I danced on them. You and I were big dancers. And eventually I took a formulation or a sentence, a statement that resonated with me the most. Like, all of them resonate, but how can I put it best into words? And then I asked myself, okay, does that feel true? It does. So how can we then translate that into an offer, into adding value to other people, into something that is tangible? Because again, my work has a lot to do with the untangible, with the unknown. And it was a process. And this is, I think, the only way how to do it. Start with what you have. Take the first step in the full knowing that as you walk the path, the next step will appear. And the majority of people, they don't need to sit and plan and strategize. People like you, generators, MGs, the world, the universe gives you things to respond to, and then you react. And this is how the path will unfold.
I love also what you mentioned in regards to the word esoteric. I actually never looked it up. For me, the perception of this word that I have right now is like it's probably something spiritual, something woo-woo. But then the description you've given is
Wow,
completely
huh?
different
Right?
from what I had
Same.
in my head. Yeah,
Same.
yeah. It's almost like something exclusive, right? For people
Exactly.
who
Yeah.
can really resonate with what you're giving. And you do have a beautiful purpose and a beautiful statement. Um, I feel like also finding the right statement, especially feeling it in your body, because you mentioned like you meditated on it and then it resonates. Like really, this sentence has to light you up, has to bring, I don't know, goosebumps in your body. Then that's
Exactly.
right. Then you found it.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm curious also to know a little bit more about how you found it from the very, very beginning, when you were still working for someone. Let's go back there in time and see step by step, how did you get out of working for someone? Was it scary? How did you become the LinkedIn unicorn? Did you think that this is your purpose back then? How did it evolve afterwards?
Great question. So I'm 41 right now. We are having, what, 2026. So let's move back to when I was
Travel,
29.
time
Exactly. Time
machine.
traveling. Ta-da! We
Okay.
travel backwards. Natalia,
Yeah.
at the age of 29. I was in Dubai. I was working for a company, and I had ticked all of the boxes of success in the sense of that I was on the cover of leading industry magazines. We got awards. I made my own money. I had my sports car. I was living in Dubai. I had my friends. We were celebrating on a boat, popping bottles. You know that. You also lived in Dubai.
Yeah. Bling
And
bling life.
right? Bling bling, exactly.
Great.
Ka-ching!
Ching ching.
And I just realized it doesn't fulfill me. And then I realized the pattern. Okay, so obviously the story that I'm telling myself, I will be happy and successful in my next job without actually knowing what happiness and success means. Bam. So, because I also had an issue with my former PhD, in German we call it something like godfather, like the person who supports you with writing the PhD. I needed to go through a change, and because of that, I was allowed to throw the first version of my PhD into the garbage bin and rewrite 80%. I needed time. So I decided to quit my job and go on a sabbatical. And during that sabbatical, I finished my PhD, or worked a lot on it. And I asked myself existential questions like, what is success? What is happiness? And this was the time when I, for the first time in my life, stumbled over things like NLP and meditation. And the hero of my life back then was Robin Sharma with his book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, which gave me an alternative perspective onto life and reality. And I just felt literally like Alice in Wonderland. I absolutely loved it. I was terrified, and at the same time, that zest for life, like the colors that were coming back, I was like, oh, this must be the reason why we're here. Like, I don't think, and I always knew for some reason deep down in my bones, that we are not here to suffer. With all due respect, there are certain institutions here that fully believe that we're a sinner, especially as a woman, because we took the apple. Let's not go that path. So there must be more to life. And in the sabbatical, I then realized or asked myself, what is it that I want to do? What is it that is fun for me? And I just did something. So I started with... and again, life just provided it to me. My first big project as a freelancer or as somebody who was on a sabbatical was to help with the organization of a massive photography event in the Middle East. And I didn't only help as what's it called? GPP, I think. I don't know if you remember. They were in Al-Sakal. It's like this big event where fantastic photographers from all over the world come, and photographers at all levels are invited to learn from them. And these are the world level photographers when it comes to architecture and portrait and fashion and whatnot. So fantastic project. I helped with the organization behind the scenes, but I also modeled. And I realized, gosh, the camera loves me, and I love being in front of the camera. So this is already when I learned, pictures, camera, whatever. And through this event, I somehow ended up in a group of friends that were all artists, dancers, singers, makeup artists, photographers, bloggers, lifestyle influencers. And all of them asked me, like, what's your Insta handle? I'm like, Insta, what handle? What? And they're like, girl, okay, let me introduce you into Instagram. Which is funny because one of the last jobs that I did when I was still working for somebody was updating their webpage and learning that there was this thing called social media. I'm like, aha. So they taught me what looks good in front of the camera. How do you write a caption? What is tagging? What are hashtags? What are influencer deals? And with that, I started suddenly telling my stories. Everybody said, I'm funny and my stories are good. So I started writing. And then from writing, I eventually evolved into blogging. I was terrified again, but I created a blog. I trained myself, and this is, by the way, the time before ChatGPT, to design a webpage in WordPress. And then in 2014, my first blog article came out. And after the blogging, I randomly, quotation mark, ran into somebody who said, I've seen your blog now for a year. Do you know what the next step is? And I'm like, no, if I knew it, I would do it. And he's like, it's public speaking. And I was like, me, public speaking, forget it. So I went into public speaking. Through public speaking, I realized, oh, this is good. I am terrible at it, but people love my energy. Fantastic. Trained public speaking for 1.5 years. Blogged a little bit, modeled a little bit. People started to ask me, to teach them how I use social media. Then they realized, oh no, teach me how to speak. Teach me how to use LinkedIn. So I did all of that and eventually realized, okay, how do I turn this into something that I'm passionate about? For me, the whole idea of purpose, I wasn't there yet. I didn't have the maturity, but I believed deeply in do what makes you happy, do what brings you joy. And back then it was social media. So I looked at everything I make money with, focused on the things that brought me the biggest amount of money, and it eventually ended up as personal branding on LinkedIn, social selling through LinkedIn. Did that for 7 years, turned into, as you said, LinkedIn unicorn, a self-made millionaire, everything that I wanted to achieve, until after 7 years and after growing and scaling and whatnot, and again being on the covers of everywhere and having achieved everything with a best-selling book and best-selling podcast, I realized, that's not it. Second sabbatical, And then during that second sabbatical, I learned about things like the nervous system and trauma and purpose and human design and astrology and all of these things, emotional maturity, emotions. Hola, like I was suppressing my emotions left, right, and center. We are both
I
Capricorns,
feel you.
so negative emotions. Let's work more, let's power through. And that's the story. So it took me, what, 11 years to fully, that's not even true, to embody or to reach deeper into, understand deeper, express my purpose deeper. And I think it's a lifelong journey. The more you mature, the more you land, the more you embody, the more you express your purpose, your gifts. And this, I think, is what life is all about. That one day, eventually, when you die, you look back and you're like, damn, it was amazing. I think I want to come back again.
Yeah, no regrets. Totally. So you started with social media, you started with Instagram. How did you get to LinkedIn? Because I feel like for bloggers, LinkedIn is not something that pops up straight away. People usually choose Instagram or YouTube, let's say. So I'm
For
wondering,
sure.
how did that appear into your life?
On Instagram, I realized very quickly that people, they liked my pictures, of course, because I am charismatic, I am photogenic, that's what people say, that's the feedback that I get. But they weren't reading my caption. The same was
Mm,
true on Facebook. They're like, oh my God, you're so pretty, would you want to marry me? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, why don't you read my stuff? I think it has value
yeah.
too. So I was frustrated. And I was also turning slightly bitter because I'm like, oh, these stupid people, they're just focusing on the outside. What about the inside? So I realized, okay, there are other social media channels besides Facebook and Instagram. What else is there? There was Twitter, now X, and everything my body screamed, nah, too fast, too much text. But then I even don't know if back then you could upload a photo. I don't know because I wanted both.
Never
Okay,
used it,
so
so I have no idea.
I just signed up for a year and I just posted, I think, from LinkedIn to Twitter or something, and it just never
Mhm.
took off, so I deleted it eventually. Good. What else did we have? We had YouTube. Back then, I was terrified of speaking in front of the camera, like videos, not happening. And then the only two other ones that sounded okay-ish were Xing and LinkedIn. So Xing is a German platform that was kind of like the German version of LinkedIn. But then I had already left Germany, and something in me told me, nah, you're not going back. I don't know, anytime soon, maybe even never. So I was only left with LinkedIn. So I said, okay, let me study LinkedIn more because of my mentor. He actually, when I was still working for somebody, he used LinkedIn to, especially for lead generation and business development. So he said, create a profile. I'm like, okay, fine. So I just had a profile that was dormant. But then I started learning about LinkedIn and using it and testing it and connecting with people. And I asked myself the big question, what's the culture and the nature of this platform? What is everything that I've learned on Instagram? And how can I bring the artsy, poetic, colorful aspects into LinkedIn while still staying professional? And that
Mm,
was the test for the next years until the first post went viral and the second post went viral. And then,
mhm.
I love that, people from all over the world started tagging those unconventional content creators that were like me. They connected us. It's like, oh, Natalia, you should know Michaela from the States. So she connected us and we jumped on a call. And it's like, oh, and you should know Ahmed from Australia. And this is how I built this fantastic network of like-minded people. We were all millennials. We were all creating content from the heart, adding value, bringing more color into LinkedIn, challenging the boundaries of what is professional and what does make you feel alive. And a lot of people loved it. A lot of people hated it. And this is the story of the LinkedIn unicorn.
Yeah, and it's okay to be loved and hated at the same time because you were also disrupting the system,
For
right?
sure.
This
For
is
sure.
how it should be. You are bringing some sparkles and butterflies and unicorns into something that is not used to these
Yeah,
unicorns and butterflies.
for sure.
I'm wondering, so you mentioned you followed things that you liked to do, right? Things that were lighting you up. So after these 7 years, what shifted? This is something that you loved doing, but then eventually the light disappeared.
Yes, so I, right now, the best way how I can put it is I've optimized my soul out of my work. Everything
Hmm.
had to be so monetized and systemized, and everything was all about minimum input, maximum output, that I had I dealt with so many clients, and with I was coaching, I was consulting, I was training, I was speaking, I was writing, I was podcasting. So everything was, in the end, like after these 7 years, made me lots of money and gave me the respect and everything. But again, I had lost joy in that system because everything had to somehow be translated or squeezed into something functional. So,
Hmm.
in other terms, I would say I was too much in my yang energy and my yin didn't have enough space. So, I couldn't just create for the sake of creating because of the process. No,
Hmm.
everything needed, okay, how do you monetize that? How do you build a product out of that? And because I had a small team and I never wanted a big team, I also worked a lot. And that is just, I realized that my need for applause and validation had sucked me into a terrible golden cage that I have created for myself. So I needed to learn how to validate and respect and love myself and disconnect my online persona from who I really was. And the life just showed me, Natalia, you can't continue like that, because I was tired, I was exhausted, I was being angry, and
Hmm.
everything just that was fun started to feel heavy. And at a certain stage, I just knew it doesn't make sense. Like, why am I doing that to myself?
It's good you felt it because a lot of people feel that, hey, something is in misalignment, but then they continue pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing burnout after burnout after burnout without taking any action. And when you felt it, you straight away took a sabbatical, right? To go within and figure out, okay, what's next? What's happening there, right? How was
Exactly.
that transition for you? Were you scared? Because, I mean, willingly, consciously, or unconsciously, still our identities are connected to the work we do. And I'm pretty sure there was such a big connection to you as a LinkedIn unicorn. How was it to let go of it and transition into a completely new you? And because you were also public, people see you as this, and now boom, you are this. How
Exactly.
was it to shift?
Before I forget it, this whole story, you can find it in my second book, Barefaced
I read it.
Authenticity.
It's awesome, by the way. I love the
Okay.
illustrations. Yeah.
Cute, no? So it's in German and
Mm,
English. What I did was, let me start before that. Again, yes, I was terrified, but then I understood that fear is part of growth. And I asked myself, what kind of vision do I have for myself if I continue in this job? And I couldn't find a vision. I was like, more money, more respect, more applause, more followers. I'm like, yeah, and then what? I was like this
mm,
more monster, everything more, but it didn't fulfill me. So for me, then logic kicks in. If I don't have a mission or I don't have a vision anymore, it doesn't excite me, I need to take a break. I had enough
yeah.
money saved, and then I I sat for a long time and I asked myself, how am I going to do that? Because as you said, I'm a Capricorn. I like status. I like money. And my identity, and I nowadays I can say that proudly. And my identity was deeply interwoven with that I'm an independent, money-making, hard-working woman.
Mhm.
And I knew subconsciously that after that sabbatical, I will not be that person anymore. And I knew
Yeah.
subconsciously that I will have to let go of probably a lot. Like not only that image, my self-image, the way how I the way how I live, the way how I move, the way how I dress, my relationship, my friendships, everything. I knew deep down in my core that everything would change, that a part of me had to die. So again, it's the
Exactly. This is
most
the word I
normal
have,
thing.
death, literally death of a big part of you
Yes,
in the past.
yes. But again, then what's the alternative? Continue suffering? No. So I I basically I created a post and I said, I think it was around Christmas. I used a little bit of I used my unicorn teasing, flirting energy, and I formulated it in the sense of I sat down and asked myself, what's the big Christmas gift that I want to gift myself with? And the answer was a sabbatical. So boom, guys, I'm going on a second sabbatical, and this is what's going to happen. I'm not going to take on any new clients. All of the contracts that I've signed, yes, I'm going to finish delivering. So do not worry if you're already signed up. If you ever wanted to work with the LinkedIn Unicorn, by the way, you have 2 weeks and then this phase is over. And I can promise you there will be no more LinkedIn Unicorn. And a lot of people are like, yeah, whatever. I'm like,
Nah, she'll come back.
so
She'll come back. She's
no, no,
bluffing.
no, no. Yeah, exactly. It's just like a teenage phase, she needs
Phase,
to.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it will pass.
exactly. I'm like, no, that's not how it feels. And I decided to blog on LinkedIn in the sense, like going back to the roots, in the sense that not every day, but 5 days a week, I would tell people what I'm going through without pulling what I say an emotional striptease, but also showing people my thoughts, my feelings, my insecurities, again, to a level that I have digested. I would only write about things that I understood. And during that sabbatical, I gifted myself with a lot of experiences to, again, create for the sake of creating. The sabbatical was also about what does true femininity mean for me, because I was triggered by women. All of my mentors were male. And I realized, oof, this can't be it. And the last part was that I also understood that there's mindset work, and I had mindseted my whole life, fantastic. But then there's also deeper work, like trauma work. So I finally allowed myself to work with therapists, psychologists, shamans, or whatever these people call themselves. For me, they do all the same work, they just have different titles. And I blogged, I wrote about that. And at the end of the sabbatical came out a new Natalia. And I was back. And then the next 3 years were all about recalibration and giving my best to explain even better what I do. Because, again, for a lot of people who are in this running and overperforming bubble like the old Natalia, what I do, they get a glimpse of it, but they're so disconnected from themselves that they can't grasp it. It's not tangible. Yeah. It looks like a luxury people do when they have too much time or money. But helping people see the importance of that, that was the gift that I was allowed to focus on over the last 3 years, to tell more people what I see, which is very typical for a projector, by the way.
And you've also mentioned that you were posting on your sabbatical 5 times a week. Wow. Wow. Well, I feel like probably back then, as you said, it was back to the roots, back to the creative part rather than making
Yeah,
money, structure, structure. It was
exactly.
more like a soulful blogging, so it was
Exactly.
easier
Storytelling.
um, to do that. Yeah, yeah, rather than think of all the CTAs and how to close a client
And the
with each and
hooks
every
and the DMs and whatever.
the
And
hooks.
right? And the interesting thing is, I knew, and I had a mentor during that phase, and he said something beautiful that I knew, but I hadn't put into words. He said, number one, the new products and services will naturally evolve once you are through that transformation or through that evolution.
Hmm.
Number two, people who accompanied you over that whole thing, they will buy because you are the
They
living
know the
proof that it
journey.
works. Exactly.
Mm.
And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, everyone could see literally the transition of you as a LinkedIn unicorn live transitioning to you as Natalia right now, the embodiment mentor. Yeah. What was from all the experiences that you've tried during this sabbatical, because you mentioned some shamans and mentors and all of that, what was the highlight, I guess, of that experience, of all of those experiences, if there was one?
The first thing that comes to mind is going on a retreat with only women. That was
Hmm.
impossible for me in the past because, as I said, I was triggered by women. For me, women were emotional, chaotic, messy. They don't know what they want. They're focused so much on their needs. They put the need over logic. Like, I had all of these ideas, and I was like, oh God, imagine me sitting in a woman's retreat, 5 or 7 days with all of these chicks who are like, poor me. And what are we going to do? Sing and dance and huddle, cuddle, puddle? And you know, kind of the facilitator said, yeah, exactly, all of that. And was like, I hate it. I'm like, okay, well, but I've learned that, you know, what a part of you resists the most is likely the
Yeah.
medicine that you need. So that's what I did. And it was super funny because the retreat was actually almost 50-50. And 50% of the women like me, they were like perfectly polished, had their makeup on, you know, sitting there in designer stuff like this, grumpy as. And then you had
Mm,
50% who were quote unquote like in their extreme feminine. It's like, I left my bra at home, I don't need makeup, I'm here with my sisters, who are clearly lacking the inner masculine.
mm,
Oh, the first 2 or 3 days it was like one party wouldn't mingle with the other one. But then on day, 3 or 4, we realized we're all the same. And we're just projecting stuff onto each other. And then the tears started to come. And then, you know, we worked with internal family systems. And then suddenly the huddle, cuddle, puddle, singer dancing was good. It was
it
nice.
became natural.
Exactly. It was
Accepted.
nice. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, it seems like you had these two tribes. See, like it seems like they were fighting, but eventually there was peace created. Yeah, it's like a, I don't know, duality because again, we live in a world of duality. You have black and white, good and bad, and this was that duality of masculine and feminine energy coming
Yeah.
into one space
Yeah.
and then realizing, hey, we're a part of the same coin. This is so beautiful. Okay, what are the biggest challenges you faced along the way of finding your purpose?
The biggest challenges that I was trying to understand it with my mind. I
Hmm.
was intellectualizing it and trying to understand it from here instead of allowing it to unravel, unfold along the way. Understanding that once I apply, I will I will understand it. I will understand it better. I will understand it with my body. Again,
Mhm.
embodiment. It's not just an
Yeah.
intellectual thing. So that was definitely a challenge. The second challenge was that I was 100% sure that my purpose is super clear. It's like a, you know, when the divine created me, it's like, this is the sentence, that's it, and it's so crystal clear, you will immediately know what to do.
Yeah.
No, it gives you the opportunity to play because um, otherwise you wouldn't come. Like if it would be too narrow of
Mm.
a way how to express yourself. So that
Yeah.
was
Like be an accountant. This is your purpose.
exactly,
And you're like,
exactly,
okay.
exactly. And no, no, not only that. Be an accountant for a medium-sized company in
Yeah.
Europe that is focusing on this and this industry. Like I was sure that
Or
this is
IT
how.
companies.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I'm like, nah, it doesn't work like positioning. I'm like, oops, interesting. So
Mm.
that was definitely a challenge. Then once I once the purpose was there, it was so funny. I had put so much energy into, oh, I need to find my purpose. once the purpose was there, a part of me obviously believed, now I've found my purpose, now everything in life is going to express itself and unfold itself. It's like my whole job was just to find my purpose, and now everything will be served like in a 5-star restaurant. No, once you found your purpose, this is where actually the tough work or another part of the work starts in, again, how do I translate that? How do I make that tangible? How do I create an offer or an offerings? Do I want to work for somebody? Do I want to have my own company? Am I more a coach, a consultant, a shaman? All of that. So I think these are or were the 3 biggest challenges.
Yeah, finding your big why, as many people call the purpose, is one part of the story because afterwards you have to, I call it, find your big how. How are you going to fulfill
Yeah,
your why? And this is the playground you can experiment with and
for sure.
play with. And sometimes the first thing won't be the thing, and maybe the second and the third, and maybe the 10th.
Yeah.
But as long as you're experimenting with all of the hows, you're gonna find it and things will align. So yeah. What are the tips for those right now who are in search of their purpose and they're asking this question, oh, what is my purpose now? What are the tips for them?
For sure. I would say invest in somebody who is either an astrologist or a human design reader or a seer. Yes, these are proper, solid jobs. And like in any industry, there are people who are skilled and there are people who are not so skilled, and there are people who are a little bit scammy, and there are people who are 100% pure. So it doesn't matter if we talk about a seer or a dentist or a lawyer or an astrologist. These are all jobs, and I would ask people that I trust instead of starting from nowhere. It's like, oh, is this person good? Is that what I read on their webpage or social media? Is that something, again, I can connect to? Ask around. The majority of people I know, they use these services, but they don't talk about it because we're afraid of what other people might think, or they might put us into a box. Invest in this
It's
service
still
and
considered woo-woo.
yeah, exactly. It's considered woo-woo or whatever. There are all these opinions that people have. But, instead of asking, what do I have to lose? And what do you have to lose? Well, this session, I don't know how much it costs. €500, €300. Okay, that's money you can make. But a more empowering question is, what can you gain? What can you win? What can you receive? And if that person was recommended by somebody that you know, that you like, that you trust, I think the question of what can you gain is so much more powerful. And again, for me, that human design reading that I received during my second sabbatical, it was from a friend. She was just at the beginning of learning this tool, but I was fascinated and it immediately makes sense. So even though she was not even so good or experienced in it yet, I immediately was like, yeah, this makes sense. Oh, let me read more about it. There are resources in the internet and there's AI. So yeah, work with somebody in that field. And then when you have that, if you can afford it, have a mentor by your side. Somebody who went through this challenge as well. Somebody who can be a mirror and accountability partner. So you reach there a little bit faster, or it's not so heavy, or whatever it is that you need as kind of.
How did this human design reading and maybe astrology, if you've also done it back then, how did it help you in the process of finding your purpose? Because I mean, I also did many of them, and they don't tell you this is your purpose. Like, no one tells you that this is your purpose. You still
Yeah.
have to kind of like figure out yourself. So, what was it for you? How did it help you in finding your purpose?
So when just before the sabbatical, I had my first astrology session with a lady who was a trainer, a seer, and an astrologist. And I said, I'm going on a sabbatical. I have an idea what I want to do, but can you see what my task or what the planetary constellations tell me, like what would make sense? And she is a very good translator. So she basically said, okay, based on your chart, I can see this will be a topic and this will be interesting. And, you should also look at this and this and this. And I'm like, okay, when we look at everything that you just shared, what are the top 3 things? The top 3 things are them, them, them. Okay, cool. So I had a recording of this session. I listened to it a couple of times. And then based on that, so Capricorn, just saying, I created an action plan. I was like, okay.
I thought you put everything on Excel, put everything in the tables.
Almost. I worked with Word. And I was like, okay, these are my 3 focus, although I know that focus or priority is just one, but I was like, these are the 3 topics that I'm allowed to focus on. And I knew that when I focus on these 3 things, and then from that deduct, what is an experience I want to gift myself with? What is it that I want to test? What is it that I want to play with, like a cat with a ball? I knew that if I follow these 3 things, the rest will unravel and appear. And this is exactly what had happened. So on one of my trips to Portugal, I actually met that friend. And we haven't seen each other. I don't know if we haven't seen each other for years or we have never met in person. I don't know. And also meeting her was a little bit complicated. But something told me, meet that woman. And then we met and we talked. And then in a side sentence, she just said, I learned this human design thing. And then again, part of me was like, tell me more about it. So I really didn't have to find, in quotation marks, my purpose. I was allowed to listen to the subtle ways how my body or my soul through my body was directing me. This is the whole
excitement.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love it. It's very important also to listen that impulse, that excitement, because a lot of people, and even myself, I'm still on the path of learning to listen, because sometimes it's so subtle, this like, it's or so fast that I don't realize. Yeah. Until when sometimes signs and this excitement feeling is so big. For example, when I went to Egypt with Silfat, also by the recommendations of Natalia, I went for a women's retreat to Egypt with an incredible facilitator, Silfat. And that was that. This is a body impulse and an excitement you cannot ignore, But sometimes they're so subtle that that I'm still learning to listen to those subtle feelings. How do you connect to that excitement, and do you also always hear your inner voice? And how do you connect? How do you connect to that inner voice?
So everybody, now let me start the sentence again. The inner voice expresses itself in different languages for different people. For some people, a lot of people that I know, it's actually a guttural they just know. It isn't and I think this is yours as well.
Yeah, that's the generator,
right?
yeah.
Exactly, generator, the sacral. So it's literally a feeling of, do I feel excited or turned on, in the sense of you have more energy, you want to do it, you feel more alive. So this is how it is for some people. For some people, they have a splenic intuition. They just know and it's gone. It's just, you tell them something and they immediately know. I'm working with one client like this right now, a gentleman in his mid-50s. Fantastic. My goodness. Since he started to follow his intuition like that, or his inner voice, instead of logic and what the mind says, all the shoulds and conditioning, he doubled his income when it comes to projects.
Wow.
Fantastic. So my intuition is self-projected on my inner voice. That means I need to talk. That's why I'm talking so much. Because when I hear, I can taste or sense, experience if something is true or not. This is my personal feedback. So that's one thing. The second thing is that, yes, I'm at the moment in a phase of my life where I'm very strongly connected to my intuition. And again, it was a long, long process. The last 4 years were very intense. Spoiler, the intuition, the soul, the divine, doesn't scream. It very often is subtle. And this is why it's so important that we take regular breaks and that we use tools that get us out of our head, out of overthinking, and into a state of rest or relaxation. This could be breath work, it could be yoga, it could be a nap, it could be nature. Nature is free. Come on, go out there, go for a walk. Art. I mean, how can I say that? If art had a purpose, it would be truth and beauty and inspiration. What does inspiration mean? Inspiration, there's something that comes from the above. I remember when we were in Egypt and we stood at the story of creation, right? One part or one god was responsible for the physical form, the mold, and then another god
Blew the spirit
inspiration,
into the.
exactly, the soul into the being. So yeah, I mean, if you say you're too busy for a break or for relaxation, then don't wonder why you feel uninspired or why you can't hear yourself anymore. And I'm not saying that to shame you, because a lot of people are in survival mode. Like the overdoing and overthinking and continuously running is a protection mechanism. They can't do it in any other way. And again, we can then learn with the help of somatic practitioners, maybe with the help of EMDR, IFS, whatever is out there, to slowly, in a speed that is safe for you, to, let's say you're running at 300 kilometers per hour, reduce it to 290, then reduce it to 280. Eventually you will reach at 250. I mentioned it in my book. For me, it was impossible to slow down because I was scared that once I slow down, I lose momentum and then I become irrelevant.
Things will fall apart straight away.
Exactly. And again, it is intellectually you know that it does make sense, but for your nervous system, it is a reality. So find somebody who guides you, who is aware of trauma, like trauma aware sparring or whatever it is, or work with a trusted therapist to rewire your system, to learn how to breathe, to learn how all of these different things express themselves in their body. And with that, you will reconnect to yourself, you will be more loving, you will develop more patience, more kindness, and with that, you will reconnect deeper with your heart. And I think this is where the purpose actually sits. If I would have to say, where does purpose sit? For me, purpose is direction. Direction tends to sit in the heart center. But the heart cannot open if we're scared. And we're scared when we're in survival.
Yeah. So it's a process of getting out from survival first, then opening your heart, and then the purpose it will be easier to connect to the purpose itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I love that everyone has their own story and there's no one size fits all in regards to finding that purpose. Like, I wish it would be like, oh, you go to an astrologist and they literally tell you XYZ, this is what you have to do, or they're like a step-by-step process on figuring all your life out. No, it's all about, again, experimenting and finding your way, your own way that is aligned with who you are, with what resonates with you the most. So, moving to our card game.
Yay! Right on.
It has 3 levels. Level number one is called perception. Question number one, what is it? How many speeding tickets have you gotten in your life?
Ooh, the first
With
number
your
that
sports
came.
car, girl. Tell me.
Exactly. Sports car. It must have been 3 or 4, something like that.
That's it.
Not so
Not
many.
bad. Not bad at all.
Yeah, again, I'm a how do you call it? A Capricorn, and we Capricorns we love money, so this
Follow
is when the
rules.
stinginess kicks in. So I'm like, nah, this was expensive, that was painful. I'm not going to speed again. Lesson learned. Thank you. Double middle finger.
Yeah. Okay. Level number two, called connection. Have you changed your mind about anything recently?
Ooh, recently that changed my mind. The first thing that comes to me is riding a bike. I was so scared of riding a bike, and I'm now learning how to ride a bike. And not only that, I mean, like a Vespa, like a moped. Not
Yeah.
only that, I'm learning it on the wrong side of the street because I'm spending a lot of time in
Yeah, because
Bali. Yeah.
Bali is on the other side. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started doing it, and I realized that, surprise, surprise, the reason why I was scared was because of an unprocessed trauma that I had in relationship to a ski accident that I had as a child.
Wow.
Bam. So once that is gone, I now can drive on that bike without sweating or without my nervous system being on fire.
Wow. Well, I remember also my experience with driving in Bali on a bike. It was super scary because it's chaotic there. It's very chaotic. And I'm very happy that finally you are getting there
Yeah.
because afterwards, after I got out of my own fears, this became the highlight of my life in Bali. The most fun thing
I
and
remember.
memory.
I remember.
Yeah.
It's like all out on her bike. It's a little bit. She was riding an imaginary dragon.
Yes. Oh my God. I loved it. I really did. I miss it, to be honest. All right. Level number three, reflection. How would you describe yourself to a stranger?
Ooh. How would I describe myself to a stranger? I am a curious, playful being that believes that there is a solution to every challenge. And I believe that we are here to fully live and to love and to express ourselves.
I love it. It's a beautiful description of yourself and also a pro tip to the person who is listening to you.
Thank
Well,
you.
we'll be wrapping up. Thank you so much, Natalia. It was such a beautiful conversation as always. Even though I know you for quite a while, I still got to know and connect to those stories and parts of you I haven't heard before. So thank you for opening up even more, for sharing your story, for inspiring everyone. And also thank you everyone for joining us today live. And we will see you in the next one.